Albania, a country in southeastern Europe that was essentially closed off from the rest of the world for over 40 years by its paranoid communist dictator who went by the name of Enver Hoxha. Life was often difficult for the people of Albania under this brutal dictatorship. However, since his death and the fall of communism, Albania has been growing and modernizing at a rapid rate. It's become one of the fastest urbanizing countries in Europe. So, what is it like to visit Albania today? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. Welcome to Tirana, the capital of Albania. Currently, I'm in Skanderberg Square, which is like the main square here in Tirana. As you can see, I feel like there was some sort of market happening, but the time is now 4 PM, so I've probably missed it. But yeah, there's not too much to see here in the square. There's a opera building over there in the distance. You can also see the mountains just behind the opera building over there. And this is why Albania has become such a popular tourist destination in the recent years, especially since the fall of the communist government. And if you look over here as well, there's a nice mosaic. So Skanderberg Square was the heart of the revolutions that took place when the communist government fell in the early 90s. In fact, there was a statue here of the communist president, Avenger Park, I think that's how it's pronounced, and he's the one who sort of became basically a dictator. He closed the country off, loads of people suffered, the whole country suffered economically. It was basically a dictatorship, but it seems like Albania is starting to thrive a bit. An important thing to know if you decide to come Albania is that the local currency here is called the lek. Lek is known as a closed currency, which means that you're only able to purchase it here in the country of Albania itself, and you can't bring it in from abroad. But euros is widely accepted here, so you can use euros, or alternatively, I recommend you get money from an ATM or change your euros for Albanian lek. Another thing to know about Albania is that most places here only accept cash, so make sure you have enough cash on you. I've come to the Pyramid of Tirana, which, as you can probably guess by the brutalist structure, was built during the communist era in 1988. It was initially opened as a museum, and then when communism fell 3 years later, it became a conference centre. Interestingly, in 1999, during the Kosovo War, it was actually used as a NATO base. As you can see, there are stairs on the side, and you can climb right to the top, so that means I have to climb it, right? That wasn't too bad. It was one hell of a good calf workout. My calves are really pumped right now. Time to see if the climb was worth it. This is the view from the top. It's beautiful, isn't it? Tirana sort of sits in like a valley, and so surrounding the whole city are these beautiful mountains. I mean, you can see some of it over there, and you can see some on this side as well. So I feel like if you do come to Tirana, you have to make a visit to these hills. My plan is to visit these hills tomorrow morning, weather permitting, because right now the weather forecast doesn't look that good. So like my experience in Vietnam from last year, the streets of Albania are absolutely chaotic. So I drove from the airport into the city centre, which should have been about a half an hour drive, but it took well over an hour. The driving standards in this country aren't great. I mean, I did have a feeling it would be the case from all the stuff I saw online, and the person I sat next to on the flight here as well also told me to be careful when I was driving here. But yeah, it's, how do I describe it? It's like the normal etiquette of the roads in the UK just don't apply here. Signalling is very, very optional here. People just change lanes without any sort of notice. Yeah, you've got to really pay attention driving around Tirana. One of the most lasting legacies of the Hoxha regime is the numerous bunkers that he built all over the country. These bunkers were built due to his paranoia that there would be a massive war, which ultimately never came to pass. It's believed that over 175,000 bunkers were built in a 20-year span. The vast resources that were used to build these bunkers is a large reason why Albania suffered economically during his regime. Most of these bunkers now lie abandoned, but a few of them have been repurposed, such as in Tirana, where 2 of them have been turned into a museum. I went to one of these during my visit, called Bunkart 2. Bunkart 2 is essentially a museum about how the communist government spied on its population and how they dealt with people they deceived to be so-called traitors. You can walk through the narrow corridors of the bunker, as well as the rooms, which have been largely preserved in its original manner. For me, the most harrowing bit of the museum was definitely the room that had a list of all the people that had been killed by the regime. That was an eye-opening experience. If you want to learn more about the communist regime here in Albania, I definitely recommend visiting Bunkart 2. I was born in 1995, so that means everything I know about communism is from a historical point of view, and the way Bunkart 2 showcases and the way the Western media portrays it, it seems like people really struggled throughout communism. And you can sort of see why there were so many revolutions to overthrow these dictators. And when the Soviet Union fell in 1991, there's no real surprise that the rest of the communist states, especially in Eastern Europe, fell very quickly afterwards. Anyway, the time is now 6 p.m. As you can probably guess, I'm starving. All I've had today is really one meal, and that was breakfast in the morning at the airport. So I'm going to try and find a local Albanian restaurant and try some local Albanian cuisine. I'm just walking back through Skanderberg Square, and it's quite interesting how you get a mix of like the old communist brutalist buildings mixed in with these modern developments. So you can see here there's some modern developments, and then if you look to the left there's like a old like sort of brutalist building in the background, and if you pan around as well, you can see the old opera house, which again is a very old building. I feel like this is a good way to show how Albania is slowly modernising. So I walked over to the old bazaar area of Tirana, where apparently there's a lot of restaurants and stores. So I was hoping to find a local sort of Albanian restaurant to try some food here. But I feel like this area is actually very touristy because all the restaurants here are like very international cuisine based. You have like steakhouses, Mediterranean restaurants, seafood restaurants, and so on. So I've decided to go to a restaurant called Stevens Centre, which happens to be one of the first 5 restaurants opened in Tirana after the fall of communism. So I thought it would be apt for this video. I'm going to eat there and then head back to the hotel and catch up on much needed sleep. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 2 in Tirana. Good morning and welcome to day 2 here in Tirana. As I said yesterday, there's not a lot to do in Tirana itself. The real beauty of the city lies on like the mountains that skirt just around the edges of the city. And today I've come to one of those sort of mountain areas, the GT National Park. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've come to this station where there's a cable car that you can get right into the mountains. So I'm going to do that and check out the views surrounding the city. On a side note, I really have to reiterate how crazy it is driving in Tirana. It's by far some of the worst driving standards I've seen in Europe. Go from where my hotel was to the outskirts of the city here was about a 15-minute drive. Well, it was supposed to be a 15-minute drive, but it took well over half an hour. The drivers here are just crazy. Like, cars are parked all over the place. There's like double parking, triple parking, and then there's potholes everywhere as well. It's a real mission. I feel like if you can drive here in Albania, you can drive pretty much most places in the world. Just made it to the top of the Avenger Park. It was actually quite a long cable car ride. I was on it for about 8 to 10 minutes, I think, and we've gone quite a decent way up. I don't know the exact altitude, but I think we're at least 1,000 meters up. If I do find out the exact altitude, I'll put a little caption down here at the bottom. But yeah, as you can imagine, it is a bit cooler up here than it was at the ground, but not too cool. There's actually a lot of activities to do around here. There's like an Adventure Park, so like a mini Go8 if you're from the UK. There's mini golf. Apparently you can go paragliding. There's also like a kids playground. There's a hotel up here. And there's also like paintballing, so lots of activities to do around here. You can also go hiking around the trails around the top as well, so you can easily spend a day here. But the main thing I'm here for is to check out the viewpoint, so let's see what that looks like. And here's the viewpoint. It's pretty incredible, right? We've got the city of Tirana down there below in the valley. You can see the cable car just over there as well. Yeah, it's well worth the 14 euros in my opinion. So after spending a bit of time, I decided to grab some lunch before I head back down. There's a restaurant up here at the top of the Visit National Park, and they serve traditional Albanian food, which is what I'm after. And I'm going to go for the oven meatballs with tomato, which you can see is 750 lek, which is roughly £6, £6.50, which, considering this is a touristy spot, is very good value for money. Those meatballs were definitely worth it and very good value for money. It's now sadly time for me to get off this mountain and get back to the car. The next place I'm staying here in the Balkans is a 2-3 hour drive away from Tirana, so I've got quite a long drive ahead of me. To summarise, Tirana was okay. If I'm being brutally honest, there wasn't a lot to do within the city itself. It was just mainly like communist buildings and structures and so on. The real beauty of the city lies within the beautiful scenery surrounding it, and that goes for most of Albania. Albania is supposed to have lots of wonderful scenery. That's probably one of the reasons why it's one of the fastest growing tourist destinations within Europe. Despite there not being much to do within Tirana itself, I did have a good time. The locals are really friendly and helpful, even though there was a bit of a language barrier. The driving is a bit suspect, but I can gloss over that. You can tell it's like a growing city, it's like a developing city. The infrastructure is still maybe 10-15 years behind the rest of Europe, but you can tell it's modernizing very quickly. If you needed another reason to visit Albania and Tirana in general, it's very good value for money compared to other parts of Europe. The dinner I had last night only cost me a £5. The hotel I stayed in last night was very luxurious, 4-star hotel, but my room only cost me 50 quid. The equivalent in the UK would probably be like 150 per night. So as you can see, it's very good value. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to see where I'm going next on my Balkan adventure. But until then, I hope you guys are staying safe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.